there's a fascinating book. There's a fascinating book that you should check out, because this is always the example that people bring up. People either bring up killing children or the Holocaust, because those are the two most extremes.
No, I mean, if you know you're going into that situation,
right? So
you're
there's
the person, not that you know that it happens to people, but you are actually the person going into that situation, and you know what the outcome is going to be.
Talk about the woman, Nicholas.
yeah. So there's a book called Man's Search for Meaning by a guy named Viktor Frankl.
Right, I read it.
You read it? Okay. So pretty much one of the things that he talks about in there is the idea that people choose their response to a situation, even in the most dire of circumstances. So there is something physiological called the fight or flight response, but that's not fear. Fear is an emotion. Fear is, here's an example of fear. Oh, and here's another thing. Negative emotions are not necessarily bad. Negative emotions serve a purpose in the moment. They are a signal, a communication from our unconscious mind. So, I'll go through this very briefly, and because I think it'll help a little bit. There is, let's take the example of hurt. We talk about the emotional body, right? The different types of bodies that we have. So, as above, so below. What happens on a physical level applies to the other levels. On an emotional level, when someone is being, we'll take the emotion of hurt. When someone is being hurt physically, they pull back. So you reach out and you touch a hot stove. What do? You pull back, right? You pull your hand back. So emotionally, when you're being hurt, you pull back in the same way. It's the exact same thing. Now, let's take the example of anger. We wouldn't want to go through life without being able to feel physical pain, right? Because there are people who have that as a disorder, and it's really difficult for them because they don't know when they're damaging their body. Pain or emotions are a response to something that's going on, and they communicate something to us. Anger is another really important example. Many people don't know that anger is actually a secondary emotion. It's a response to hurt. The way I like to explain it is it's almost like you reach out and touch a hot stove, and then you try to pull back but the stove is following you. So the best physical example that I found for it is, imagine you're being stung by a bee. What do? You brush the bee away. So anger is a pushing away. Now let's talk about fear. Fear as an emotion. Fear is a memory of something that hurt us in the past, or it can be the anticipation of something that we believe could potentially hurt us. However, fear is an illusion because nothing can hurt you. Nothing can hurt. What would happen if you went to the gas chamber? It's what she talked about. It's fear of death, but if you transcend
No, it's not fear of death. It's fear of pain.
Okay.
Fear of loss. Fear of not being able to become who you were meant to be. Not just fear of death. Death isn't the end, and negatively it was the end either. It wasn't that. It's, what if you were given an extraordinary talent, artistic, music, or whatever, and you cut off from that early?
Who gave you the talent?
Never see her.
So if you're going to the gas chamber, who's taking it away?
My response is those people who operate the gas.
So they're doing something again, without God's permission. My understanding is that there's a point of understanding, of realization that the people who've written these ideas, and my personal belief is that everything happens for a reason. Everything happens for a reason, even pain, even the worst things that happen in life. Everything happens for a reason, and we grow through those things. And the growing is our choice, though. See, that's free will. Whether you choose to grow or not is our choice. So here's an example. I have, a while ago, I went through a process of removing the idea of failure from my mind. So the concept of failure doesn't exist to me. I mean, I know what it is, but I don't operate from a place of anticipating that it's possible for me to fail. And the reason why is because I know that if I learn from every situation that I go through, from every experience that I go through, that it's impossible for me to fail. Because if I go through something and I fall down, and I get back up and I say, okay, here's what I did, here's what I didn't do, and I try something different, and then I fall down and I get back up. If I continue learning, eventually I'll figure it out. Or I'll decide that if there's something else for me to do, but it's impossible for me to fail, so there's no fear of failure. Does that make sense? So that's an example of one kind of fear that can be transcended. Does that sort of answer your question a little bit? Okay.
Even when it comes to torture and things like that, physiologically, after a certain point, you don't feel pain. Unless
I
you
know
choose to
that.
feel pain.
I know
And they've
that.
actually proven that there's certain centers in the mind that they can,
Yeah.
I just walked out of the body and it should happen.
And I know that, but,
Maybe,
Okay.
maybe that kind of fear of going into that situation has to do with the fact of losing your freedom to choose what you want for yourself. In other words, you want to be alive and somebody else is taking your freedom away. So it's some kind of resistance to the fact that you are not having the choice. And so you are giving up some dreams and all that. But the truth of the matter is that somehow in a higher level, we have co-created with that person who's even taken our life away. And so the brain is the one that is maybe telling us, okay, something is going to happen. We're going to be experiencing some fear, and we don't like that fear. And so we start putting those feelings into our body. And so I think that basically because of that freedom to choose, that is the one that is being threatened, is the reaction, just to resist. Because if you wanted to commit suicide, you could even
Right.
Yeah.
do it in
It's
any
a
other way
blessing
that it's
for the
even
guy that
more
feels
painful.
unrealized, unhappy, or wants it ended. Walking into a gas chamber is a blessing because it's doing what he wants.
So the thing itself has no inherent meaning. It's just the meaning that we give it.
But the good thing is that even in that moment in which you're going into that, you can make a choice. Okay, now I'm going to make the best out of this. What am I going to do after this? Okay, I will finish with this one, and I will come back and do something. I mean, it's just from a higher level because the body is just responding to what the brain tells.
And this is just one perspective. So if it's not something that you agree with, that's fine. And that's totally okay for you to have that different opinion. And I gotta keep going here because I've only got like -5 minutes right now. Okay, all right, thanks. Okay, so how do we do this process? How do you take a conflict and take it down into the void? I taught this technique before. I've never brought up, I've attempted to stress how powerful and profound this technique can be. And I've never brought up that you can do this with it. So this is something in Huna they call hakalau. In Buddhism they call it walking meditation. It's also known as the learning state. And it is basically a very rapid method of allowing yourself to drop down into this place. So really quickly,